All right, so welcome everyone, and I'm just going to turn my lights up a little bit. Thanks for joining me tonight. And I wanted to start tonight's session with a question I had this week that I thought was really relevant because the emails I get and the questions I get often have a similar kind of theme, which is my mind keeps chattering and I feel like I'm not doing that well at mindfulness, and how do I do better at it? Okay, that's the genuine. Does anyone else have those kind of thoughts go through? Yeah, you have those kind of thoughts go through? Yeah. Okay, so the question, or the essence of the question is, I'm struggling with the difference between letting go, noting the thoughts, and just gritting my teeth and bearing it. And when I woke up today, my head was full of thoughts, full of negative thoughts, and all I could do was bear it. And they didn't really go, but they softened a bit. I know that's a good outcome, but basically it makes life really difficult. So what do I do? So when I read that, the word that sticks out to me, the word that's at the core of all our problems is this word I. So underneath all the thoughts is this I, okay? And if you've watched videos, you've come to class before, you heard me talk about, if you go inside and look for this I that we're always referring to, that we're trying to improve and please and all of that, there's nothing inside when you look there. If you close your eyes now and just shift your attention back into your own self and look for this separate person, this separate entity that we continually refer to, what do we find when we step back there? So there are some happenings, I'll call them. There's things coming and going, sensations, thoughts, maybe some emotions, sounds coming, those physical feelings, as I said. But where is the one who owns all this? Where is the one who owns the body, the one who owns the thoughts, the one who owns the feelings? Where is this I that's asking all these questions? So we could say there's an I there, or there's something there that notices all of this that's happening. And you can't really look at that because it's you, so you can't see it the way you can look at a thought, or you can feel a feeling, or you can see a tree. You can't look at that awareness, but you can sense that there are things happening, and then there's awareness of those things. It's pretty simple. So if you sense into that awareness, does this awareness have an identity? Is the awareness in you a different one than in me? Does that awareness have any problems? Does it need something that's not here right now? And if we even drop the word awareness, just forget that word, forget all words, and just sense what's there looking at all this. And everything that arises, every thought, every feeling, every experience, all this arises within this space of awareness. It's all seen, experienced by awareness. And everything that's experienced is ever changing. You know, it comes, it goes, it comes, it goes. Even this body that you're experiencing now is, you know, it's on its way out eventually. It might seem like a long time to us, but compared to the planet, the universe, the sun, it's a blip. So all that appears, everything that happens has a lifespan. Thoughts, feelings, everything. And it's all witnessed by this awareness. So is that awareness changing? Is that awareness different in you than it was when you were 10 years younger or 20 years younger? So what you're sensing is the one unchanging element of your life, of your experience, of everyone's experience. And so the questions that get asked are all about this I. Because the I, the one you think you are when you're lost in thought, it wants a pleasant life. It wants to feel good. It wants things to be calm and peaceful. And that's why we all started this thing that we call mindfulness, or we call whatever. Because the I didn't like some element of its experience and wanted it to change. Okay, that's fine to get us here. Once we're here, the I has no place anymore. The I is that's the thing that's causing the discomfort in the first place. That's the one that needs to go. So all we do is we recognize that you never were that one. We're not even getting rid of it. It's not even going because it was never here, really. It was just an idea that came, that held for a while, and that's going. Where did the idea arise? Within that awareness. Everything arises and disappears within that awareness. And in fact, everything arises from that awareness and then dissolves back into it. If you watch, a thought doesn't come into you from outside. It rises out of that aware space and then dissolves back into it. So what is this I that I'm talking about? The I, the belief in I, is what connects all these thoughts, which the thoughts actually aren't connected. They all just come, go, come, go. We believe they're connected because we believe in this person who has a past and a future. So when you step back into that awareness, where's the person? This body, the apparent body. But the one that you believe yourself to be only exists when you're thinking about it, when you're believing thoughts about it. If the mind stops for a second, then where is that identity? It only survives through constant thinking, constant feeding. And if you watch, you're not even doing that thinking. It just happens. But it happens when you move out of this awareness and the attention goes to the thought, to the apparent world, to this search for future happiness. So if we picture this awareness as having two aspects, this isn't true, but it might be helpful. So we picture this awareness as having two aspects. This stillness aspect, where we're just sitting, just being, and the awareness is like the dynamic aspect of this. Sorry, the attention is like the dynamic aspect of the awareness. So we can, it's almost like a light, we can direct that sort of here or there. We say it's like, I looked at it like it's the eyes, but we all know that your eyes can be focused on something and you can completely not see it if if your attention is in here somewhere. So what is it that's looking? It's not the eyes looking. It's the one behind the eyes, which we can never understand what that is. So when we direct the attention, when the attention's directed to thought or it's directed outwards, then we get lost in the world, but mostly we get lost in those thoughts. So on the Facebook group, someone put something about outsourcing our happiness this week, which I thought was good. We outsource our happiness. We're always looking outside. So if we insource it, if we take that attention and pull it back and see what's behind, what's looking at all of this, that's where we want to go. Okay, so, and when we're going back there, then it doesn't matter what those thoughts don't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what they're saying, doesn't matter pleasant, unpleasant. we kind of need to forget about that and pay attention to where our attention is, because that's the key to all this. Those thoughts will keep being difficult and muddy and all of that if we're in there stirring them up all the time. If attention moves back, then the mind will balance itself by itself. The body will balance itself. We might still get sick, but we're not going to be anxious and stressed and churning things up. So in some ways, we don't need to worry about what to do with the thoughts. We need to concern ourselves with what to do with our attention. Is this making sense? Yeah. Anyone got a question on it at this point? Okay. Anyone? It's a pun. All right. So let's do a bit of a longer exercise, and we'll explore this together. Okay. So if you close your eyes and just notice the breath for a moment. And for the duration of this exercise, I want you to try something, which is to not concern yourself with what your thoughts are saying, whether it's right or wrong or good or bad. Don't try and make sense of them or change them. Just let them do what they do. They will anyway. So just feel yourself breathing. And just allow this attention to move back behind the eyes. So we're accustomed to paying attention to what's either outside or what's rolling through the mind. Just pull your attention back. Back behind the eyes. Back into this space within which or from which you're looking. Allow yourself to experience the sensations of each in-breath, of each out-breath. And also pay attention to this awareness itself. Just notice just sense into this awareness that's the background of your experience. As you sense back behind the eyes, back into the body, see if you can ground your attention there and just remain aware of the breath that comes and goes, but also feel yourself looking as well. If thoughts come, just treat them the same as the breath. Just experience them rising and falling without clinging to them or rejecting them. Just like the in-breath and the out-breath. Those thoughts aren't special. They're not any more important than that feeling of breath coming and going. Totally equal. And they're not unimportant either. There's nothing wrong with them. So even as thought arises, stay grounded in that background awareness and just look at them from there. Notice the tendency to get drawn into the thought, to give attention to it exclusively, and to lose awareness of yourself in that experience. You're not losing yourself, just losing awareness of yourself. You're still there, just forgotten. And as you go through that process of getting drawn in and then pulling attention back, notice how the awareness, the attention is unaffected by that process. And notice how the thought, how impermanent, how transient the thought is. Before you know it, it's gone. And what remains? Awareness, attention. Still there, just looking. Take your attention into the body. Sense your body from the inside. Just feel how much empty space is there. There might be some physical sensations, some tension, some stress, whatever we want to call it. And if you look at each sensation, you can see that it's still surrounded by this empty space. The only reason you can feel it as something separate is that there's this empty, still space around it. So I like the thoughts. Don't be drawn too closely to those sensations. Just notice them. But notice this emptiness too. I use the word emptiness, but it's really this pulsating, alive space. It's not empty at all. And you can see how even that space, even that so-called emptiness, is being noticed by you. So what's the one part of your experience that you can't see or look at or notice or look at directly? The one element that you can't observe is the observer itself. It's the one who watches. You can sense that witness. It's there always as the background. Is the one who makes all experience possible. So watch the activity coming and going, but keep returning your attention to this witness. Keep drawing back and drawing back into this pure awareness itself. There might still be thought arising within this experience. It doesn't matter. It's of no importance. It's just part of the show. Don't let it distract you. Keep coming back to the awareness itself. And just allow your attention to sit in this space, in this awareness. Notice how this isn't an activity that we're doing. We're not doing anything. In fact, we've stopped doing. The attention has stopped wandering off somewhere else, looking for something else. Instead, it's just resting in this awareness. This awareness is like a nice, warm, dry house. And attention has been out in the rain, running about, trying to find somewhere to get warm and dry. We've tried through money, we've tried through relationships, we've tried through career, we've tried through family. Nothing completely worked. And so we've been like this, attention, just outside the front door, but always looking away, always looking to the horizon for some respite. We're trying to shelter under a tree. And what I say to you now is to step back into your home. Into this pure awareness. And when you come back there, then you'll even realize that you were never in the rain. You just dreamed it. You just imagined the whole thing. That you've always been here, imagining that you were there, imagining that you were someone else, something else, trying to get somewhere else. And all that imagining is just dissolving. That's all. You never were stressed or upset or anxious or lost, because there's no one there to be any of those things. It's just those feelings that arise in response to these imaginings. But it's probably best just to ignore these words. Just keep returning, just pulling attention back into this awareness, just dropping into this space. Don't try to understand it, figure it out, and just disregard anything that comes to you in words. Only trust your experience. Whether, whether it seems crowded with many thoughts coming and going quickly, or whether it seems quiet and peaceful, both are equal, because they're both temporary experiences. That quiet will seem to disappear when more thoughts come. And the noise will seem to disappear when the thoughts die down, even if it's when you go to sleep. And our tendency is to get drawn into evaluating that experience. It was nice and peaceful, or it was noisy and horrible. And then seeking one over the other. But that's just attention, again, out wandering, seeking something better. Just let the noise or the quiet be as it is, and come back into your own self, into your own awareness. So we can notice that this I that we started with is just an idea that arises and dissolves in this awareness. And this thing we call time is also an idea that arises and dissolves in awareness. And the idea of time and the idea of I depend upon each other. Because without the idea of I, there could be no past or future, because someone has to, or some idea of someone has to continue through these imagined past and future. And the I can't exist without time either, because without your history, without your hopes, what remains? So it's just a misunderstanding that because you've spent so long paying attention to these ideas, they've come to seem real and true. And in fact, they're just ideas that come and go in this space that you are. So I invite you to open your eyes in your own time, if you've got them closed. Stretch the body. Feel what that's like, if you'd like to. So I wanted to address that question because I get questions like that all the time, which is good. But I get questions like that all the time. And if you missed the start, the question was about someone's saying my experience is that I have all these thoughts coming and going, and it's really difficult to manage, and I'm not quite sure how to deal with it. So what I'd invite you to notice is who is asking that question. Is the awareness fretting over the thoughts that come and go, and whether my experience is quiet or whether it's, and is the thought constructing these, these complex sentences and questions and ideas that we all do that as part of this experience, or we'll express things in that way. But the one who's asking these questions is the one who's causing all the trouble in the first place. So it's like this imagined one is chattering away, or so it seems. And then the same one comes up and says, it's very noisy today. Why is there so much thought? I think there's something wrong. I think there's something wrong with me or you. Sometimes that one refers to you as you, doesn't it? It doesn't take ownership. And so then it's the one that sends you off to the bookshop to, someone was telling me, there's that book, and maybe I should just forget about all this spiritual, rubbish and just, I think I should, the stock market, that's where maybe that cave in the Himalayas, maybe then, and it's the same one. And then you go to the Himalayas and the same one says, well, you're just avoiding things here, really. Like, you haven't dealt with your problems. And like, what are you going to do here? It's cold, it's wet, it's full of bats. I better go home. And then you get home and the same one says, see, I knew you couldn't do it. Yeah, I could have told you that. You wasted a lot of money going all the way over there, didn't you? Quite funny, really. And we could spend forever. We could spend forever trying to follow that one's plan for your future happiness. And you'll never get there, because that one enjoys looking for future happiness. And if that's what you enjoy, you could never find it, or else you'd have nothing to look for. So even within mindfulness or any kind of meditation or any spiritual practice, most people still believe that they're a person who's trying to improve their life by doing this, because that belief in this I is so strong. And I still get lost there as well. But when we're practicing, this is why in a lot of traditions they say, don't evaluate your practice. Don't evaluate it. Don't think it's good, think it's bad. Just do it. Just focus on doing it. Because the one who's evaluating is the troublesome one anyway. So the one who sits for a while and then says it's not working and I should go do something else, I'm wasting my time, I should do it better, I should do it this way, I should do it that way. That's the one that's doing all of this. And it's the root of the whole problem. And so then that one could grab onto these words and say, all right, I just need to notice that there's no self. All right, that's what I'm going to do. That's my goal now. my goal. My goal is to notice that I don't exist as a separate person. It's ridiculous. So instead, we can, the one, and say thing, it's not a thing, but the one, I'll just say it, the one thing that you can use within this process is to practice practice directing your attention within, to practice moving attention back and noticing this awareness. And I think that's the shortest path, is that we can try to, there's a lot of practices around noticing the breath, around, walking mindfully, around noticing the body. All of those practices can be really helpful. But where those practices start to come to fruition is when the awareness that's experiencing all these, this walking, breathing, all those things, notices itself. That's the key. That's the kind of turning point. Is until then you're still a person trying to be mindful, and then the thinking mind is gonna run all over that. It's gonna be difficult. And once you make that step from I'm a person practicing to I'm awareness, noticing myself, it's not going to instantly get easier. But then the fact that the awareness is getting lost in all these thoughts doesn't matter anymore. It's not important, because there's no one who's trying to achieve something. I'm just getting reacquainted with myself. So, it's like, getting back together with an old friend, and it doesn't matter if the phone rings or, the power cuts out, or, something interrupts. If you've got time to reacquaint with that old friend, then, you don't worry if you have to go to work for a while and then come home and catch up with them. You don't go, oh, I'm not reacquainting properly. I should stay here all day and just talk to you. Okay. You won't be friends for long. So then we can take this process kind of gently, because there is no process anymore. There's nowhere you're trying to get to. It's just as you become reacquainted with yourself, then everything that you're not, you start to notice that, oh, that's not me. That's not really me. Okay, that's crazy thoughts. That's not me. Okay, it doesn't matter. So, my thoughts are probably, as crazy as anyone's, or the thoughts that I experience are as crazy as anyone's, and things are still, there's plenty of stuff going on. There's busyness, and I get lost in that. But once there's some faith in what's happening here, the person starts to dissolve, and none of that stuff is such a big problem. Questions? You should ask, because I talk all night. Okay.
Oli?
Yeah.
Oli?
Yeah.
Hi. Sorry. Technical fault there. I couldn't unmute myself. Sorry about that. It's more of an observation than a question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks very much for that, because I really found that very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, when you said at one point, when you get lost down a rabbit hole or whatever, don't worry, you just forgot. It just reminded me of and these sessions do that quite often, of things that you instinctively know or perhaps you'd heard and you just forget, don't you? Like, and then you think, well, I used to know that. For example, the things that kept popping into my mind were, a thought is not an instruction. That's something that somebody told me once, and I thought that was really helpful and something that I quite easily forget. It also reminded me of something I saw on TV with two characters trying to control a vehicle, and it's veering all over the road, and eventually it settles down and goes the right way. And one character says to the other, "Oh, did you learn how to drive it?" He said, "No, I just stopped fiddling with the controls." And finally, I'll shut up then. But something I read by one of your countrymen, I think, is it Matthew Johnston, the Quiet the Mind guy, where he said, you've got all this crap going on, and there's only one thing you have to do about it, which is nothing. Again, I think it's not quite from the same angle that you were coming from, but I think one of the things that I can take away from this is just to stop fiddling with things, really.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for that.
Thank you. Yeah. That's good. That's very good advice. Just put yourself in the right, put yourself in the right space, and then just let it unfold. Anyone with a camera, if you can't unmute yourself, you want to, you just wave.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now, Miriam.
Oh, right. So I'm not quite sure how to make this thing work, but if you can hear me, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I recently recommended your books to a friend who seems to be, or shall we say, struggling a little with life and has had chronic depression for some years. And he said he thought it was helpful, but the question he had in his mind, and I couldn't really give him a sensible answer, was that if he's to live in the present and to stay anchored in the present by using his breath and so on, he was anxious or fearful that he would lose a lot of memories from his past, and he thought that a lot of his memories were precious to him and he wouldn't really want to lose them. They were important to him, the things that he'd achieved in life and his successes and so on. And I didn't really know what to say to him. And he thought for that reason, he said he didn't think that mindfulness and being aware of being in the present moment was for him. And I guess I didn't really know how to answer that question. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Any question that's generated by the mind is complicated. So it's hard to answer it on the level that it's asked, if that makes sense, So the mind generates these complicated kind of logical answers that say, well, yeah, but if I do that, then this might happen, and then so therefore I shouldn't, and that's okay, everyone's at different places.
Yeah.
So I guess where I got to, because I've had kind of similar path and things like that pop into my head as well. But where I got to was the realization that I already live in the present anyway. It's not like a choice. It's not like, well, I used to live in the past and the future, and now I've decided to live in the present. It's like, oh, I realized there is no past or future. I have these thoughts in my mind, and that's it. But everything always happens now. But if you listen to that question, it's what we've talked about tonight, is there's a belief in a separate I who has achieved things and wants to achieve things and is trying to, manage the suffering that they're experiencing. And so for I think for a lot of people, when they step into this kind of space, there is a fear of losing your identity, or a fear of kind of letting go of what you've been working hard to build up for your whole life. So there is, and remember a few years back having that experience of, oh, but who will I be if I'm not this one that I imagine? Well, I didn't think it was imagined then. I thought it was real. But if I let this go, then, it's like, well, it's painful and it's difficult a lot of the time, but it's like it's all I've got. So that's a pretty challenging thing for a mind to consider. So, I mean, sometimes no answer is the best answer anyway, just letting people continue on their path. There's no real sense in trying to convince people otherwise. However, but I mean, I think it's okay to say to people, well, yeah, that's fair enough. You don't have to kind of wipe your mind clear. But if you talk from your own experience, that's usually the most helpful. Say, I didn't want to lose my memories either, and I kind of haven't, but I found that I enjoy things a little bit more, or things that used to stress me out don't stress me so much. But I think what touches people, what people notice is the way you live, and the shifts in your own way of being in the world, even though that you might not notice that that's happening, but people around you will be kind of saying, oh, you're a little bit calmer, or that's not worrying you, that's not bothering you, what's wrong?
Yeah, well, I certainly am a little bit calmer since I've been practicing mindfulness. I mean, we've been trying to sell this house now for 2.5 years, and my husband commented that normally I'd be ballistic with anxiety, worrying about when was it going to happen, when are we going to be able to move, and all this stuff. But it doesn't bother me so much trying to be more in the present, because, as you say, the future doesn't exist, and we've got no influence over it anyway, so what's the point in worrying about it? So here I sit, wait till our house is sold, and I think it's helped me be less anxious. Certainly.
That's great.
That's good.
I mean, when your house sells, it'll be now, and when you move, it'll be now, and then it'll still be
that's
now.
Right. It'll be no better where we move to. It'll just be different.
That's it. Your mind might say it's better for the first 6 months, and then kind of like the old place, and there's always the Himalayas, though.
I won't go there. It's too cold. I like my home comforts.
Wonderful.
Are you are presumably in the middle of winter now in Australia, are you?
Yeah. It was 17 degrees today.
Lovely sunny day. We've got lovely sunshine and warm weather here now. Got my washing on the line, and it's drying out there.
Yeah.
Makes a change for England. It rained yesterday, but not today.
That's a good story.
Just a story.
Are there any other questions before we finish up, or comments? Oh, hang on, Miriam. What were you going to say, Miriam?
No, I was just saying that was really good, really helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? just remember, I think you've probably all got my email and my, or you're in the Facebook group if you want to check that out. And I'll let you know when the recording's available. And yeah, if you've got any other questions, get in touch. Otherwise, have a lovely, sleep well, or have a nice day, depending on where you are. At least 3 continents tonight, so that was good. Try and get 4 next time. And as I always say, I don't know the future, but hopefully I'll be back next week. And that's my mum saying thank you. That was great. She's not just saying that because she's my mum, but thanks everyone, and we'll see you all next week.